I was a class clown. I was cracking jokes. I'd never created or built something from scratch, let alone a community of people. So what is it that you do? What's the Hensay way? The Salesforce opportunity was very unique. I didn't apply for that. Experience shaped the rest of my professional career.
Hey, my name is Hensay Qualah. I've spent years building a career in finance and investments. I've had the privilege of working the nitty-gritty of high-stakes deals on both the buyer and seller side. Join me as I go behind the scenes, behind the deals with some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders. Welcome to It's Not That Hard.
Hey, thank you for coming by.
Of course, man.
And I be here today. What I really wanted to chat about was, your background in crafting SOPs, as well as HR system structures for businesses. And also, I know you're looking at potentially buying a company here in the near future. So I'm curious, starting off from the beginning.
Yeah, it's funny. My first job out of college was I was slinging thumbs at Verizon.
Okay,
do retail.
I used to be in the cell phone game too. Yeah,
and it's a hustle. It was not B2C. It was B2B. Yeah. So I was sitting in a retail store and that experience shaped the rest of my professional career, because what I hated is that, think about it. When's the last time you were so excited to go to the phone store? Never. Never. No. Anytime I'm like, you need a new phone. Yeah. You excited to go to the phone store?
We're saying nowadays, because they all look the same. And back then, there was a sort of wide range in not only the appearance but the functionality. Yeah. Nowadays, they all look the same. I see it at Samsung. Sometimes I'm like, oh, is that an iPhone? No, they all have a similar look and feel. They all look alike. They're all like $1,200.
And all the fees.
Yeah.
They were here, now they're there, whatever. But I hated that. I hated that, almost all of my customers did not want to be there.
Yeah.
And so I took it as a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make this experience less shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to connect you. I'm going to be playful. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be kind. I have to, by requirements of my job, I have to bring 5 things out of that back office.
Yeah.
Tell me what to bring.
Yeah.
I have to. I'm going to bring them. I know that you don't want a bunch of cases. It's IT. All this. I need a new phone. And I don't want you to bring out a use case to illustrate projectors. Okay. I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
So if you don't want those, what should I bring out? We got speakers. We got smartwatches. We got, what should I bring?
Yeah.
And, I killed it in sales. Yeah. Because of that, I cared about 2 picks. So that you have a good experience and that you walk away feeling like I helped you solve whatever you needed to get resolved. So I dealt with a lot of phone bills. I dealt with a lot of phone sale transactions, but eventually I started to realize, whether it's sales specifically or selling phones, this is not for long.
Was your approach, is it needs focus or want focus? That you have to bring out the devices, or did you, what's your experience? Did you break your phone, crack how was what was their approach?
Similar to most sales, you want to know what their needs are anyways. You also want to know what their desires are. I think that's extremely important no matter what, whether it's sales or even the work that I do now with, HR. You want to know what drives. And so you're here, you're with me. Yeah. So let's have a good conversation. Help each other. Listen, I'm going to treat you with respect. As long as you treat me with respect, this will be a good experience for you. I can guarantee that. And so, it was definitely needs focused in the context of I'm going to most importantly solve your issue. This with your phone, okay. If you got an issue with your bill, cool. You have a kid that's running up the data. Back then, I was it wasn't unlimited data. So
what's your way? Wow, 2 gigs. Or my first phone, my parents didn't give me no data, no texting.
What I used to do this call people.
Yeah, only thing.
Yeah. So, for me, once I started to realize, okay, I'm good at this. I'm good at connecting with people. I'm good at problem solving. I knew that this wasn't for long. That was when I got my MBA.
Yeah.
And Verizon had an awesome education reimbursement program.
Yeah.
So I was like, they're gonna pay for that. I through my MBA had a study abroad trip for like 2 weeks in China. I was like, I think I'll pay for that too.
Oh, wow.
And
I was China. Where'd you? Beijing.
Interesting that so I went to Beijing. I went to Shanghai, and I went to last time like day in Sichuan. So it was cool, man. It was a cool experience.
Yeah.
I've told Ori, my fiance, like, if you want to go on down, like, I also don't necessarily need to go back.
Yeah.
It was a very cool experience. First time traveling internationally, and did not pay for it.
Right.
And by that time, I had already started identifying a path for myself, a transition out of sales into HR, which is what I originally wanted to do anyways. I just couldn't get something coming out of college. So,
yeah, Verizon covered it. So that you transition to Verizon corporate.
So what I started doing was I would just on my days off, I'd link up with their recruiters, and go help them at like career fairs. I joined them I do mock interviews. I join them at the call center, and I just wanted to understand. I kind of got exposed to recruiting through like expanding my search, and realized that that's definitely what I want to be doing. And so I started just getting myself exposed to that, networking with people, and then started applying right around the time that I had started getting about the midway point of my MBA program. So it was about, a year into being at Verizon, I was started to think about what's next, applying. And then an opportunity at architecture engineering firm opened up for a recruiter. And it was a higher tier. They needed like 5-6 years of experience, which I had none. But I had these opportunities with these other people, and I'm a salesperson.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna reach out and just sell myself. I reached out on LinkedIn to the hiring manager, and all the credentials that I do or don't have, overinflated, like to read that. But he appreciated that I reached out. He appreciated the gumption and invited me to come in for like a 30-minute conversation. I went and sat down with him. We were there for like 2 hours, and he ultimately told me like, I cannot hire you for this job, but I'd like to explore something else.
Dope.
And I left. He hit me up a little bit afterwards. So we started doing an interview process, and then I took a trip abroad to go visit my grandmother in London, and he called me back while I was on the way over there. He's like, yeah, I'd like to have you join us. So that was my exposure and transition into HR.
Really?
And
HR at an architectural
engineer. So I got that.
I get Texas. This is a different role, but role with
him. Yeah, it was amazing opportunity. Ton of great mentors that came from that experience. That was my first time learning like what it means to have a manager that truly cares about your growth.
Yeah.
Not just that you are able to get your job done effectively.
Yeah.
And my career was, I was there for 5 years. I had nothing but positive experiences to say about that company and the people and the connections that I made. But, I wanted something a little bit bigger, and the Salesforce opportunity was very unique. I didn't apply for it. So at this point, I had been doing a lot of stuff. I had a lot of really cool experiences. I started a partnership with an after school program, and the relationship had already existed, but we created this STEM program, this after school program for these boys 5th through 8th grade. And that created opportunities for the company. I was also wanted to get into like emergency response management, because they did a lot of like design mostly, but they wanted to expand into asset management.
Yeah.
And so I went down to the Florida Keys after Hurricane Irma. I was there for like
volunteering,
week and a half. Not volunteering. I was working. We were setting up project sites for cleanup.
Okay.
So I would get up at 4:00 in the morning. I would go to a project site. If anyone that was already starting, I'd get all their paperwork signed with them. And then we go to the local office, scan all their stuff in, send it off to our HR department, and then I hightail it over to the workforce development center where we'd set up tables, and we had radio art ads like, hey, if you're looking for work, HDR is hiring, they're doing cleanup efforts, go down to workforce office. I'd be there for 6 hours from the moment they'd open to the moment they close. I'd be there interviewing on the spot, doing you have to run a background check, but like hardly looking at credentials. It's just like, can you breathe? Yeah. You get to work on time. Yeah. Are you a normal human being? Okay. We can get just work. And then that cycle would repeat. I'd go on, I'd prepare all of their paperwork, get it ready to go, show up at the project. I'd like call all of the people that we got their stuff done, show up tomorrow, be there at this side, would come with your ID, a pen, blah, blah, blah. Get the
And then that created a name for you in the marketplace where you were recruited by Salesforce or by someone how was that?
Yeah, so through that gave me a little bit of visibility with some executive leaders, and they brought me in to start helping with what they were trying to build with their DEI initiatives. And I was a part of their core group of, they had like a panel, and that panel provided a variety of different things, but I helped kind of coming up with ideas, but like building up the employee resource groups and then different things that we can do for awareness on different months and heritage months. Yeah. Through that work, I got a little bit more exposure. I always kept my LinkedIn updated on what I was doing and the different projects I was working on. And then, Salesforce came knocking out of nowhere. I was on a trip for our HDR Foundation, was the name of the company was HDR. They had a foundation. I was the young professional. We were delegate on that committee, and I was traveling down there. I get a phone call. I'm like, this is a scam, bro. Also, you have to remember, so when this happened, this is while COVID is starting to make its way into the United States.
Okay, so is this like early 2020, late?
This is like early 2020, like January, February of 2020. Okay. And so I remember like getting to Omaha, and my coworker's like, how was the airport? And I'm like, but I don't even know that. There's no hand sanitizer. Okay, whatever. But the interesting thing about that story, so they reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I was excited and interested, set up a phone call, and got an offer went through the interview process, got an offer, and at this point, I really wanted to stay with the company. They were bringing in a diversity inclusion director. Finally, I was going to report to that individual. Transition. But this opportunity was to create a whole career coaching program for underrepresented employees at Salesforce. So, and I'm like, that's a whole nother level.
That's like from when we're founder on something essentially.
Creating a sign led. Yeah, I mean, startup. Absolutely, and it just spoke to me so much. The money was way more than I expected it to be. Which was also eye-opening. And so what I tried to do is I tried to get my company to patch it. And so I took it to the leader above my boss. My boss was like, yes, but I can't approve it. I've got to get it. And so I went through this process, presented it to his leader. Ultimately, he made it clear he was not going to match. I was like, deuces. Yeah. That's what brought me over to Salesforce. And, the reason I tell the interesting story about COVID is because I got that offer. Yeah. I put in my 2 weeks notice, and then I was like, for 4 or 5 days, shitting bricks. I'm like, did I get scammed? Yeah. Until my work phone arrived. I was like, I might have just quit my job and got scammed all at the same time. Even on my first information. So, it was a very interesting because then by that time I had, this was April. Yeah. So we're in full lockdown.
Yeah, remote, everything.
The remote.
Yeah, and your prior employer, was that in office?
I'd have to be hybrid just because our headquarters was in Omaha. I was doing so much traveling already, and I had relocated. My boss was just, at that point, he was just like, okay. And but yes, traditionally, the average employee was expected to be there Monday through Friday. Yeah. And so I would go in typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I'd stay at home Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it was like, and also, along with that, it's like I would be out all day. So even if I was working from home, I was serving on Ronald Dahlhaus's Young Professional Board. I was on the Chicago Children's Research Fund Junior Board. I was trying to start to do hours, how did I know I'm sitting in college? I don't know. We were ain't good. Time management, prioritization was really, job came first.
Yes. And why, these community initiatives, you mentioned the STEM earlier, like why were you then motivated to,
A small offhand comment that my grandma made to me one time, she was just like, I know you're probably not going to go to church when you leave for college, but at least make sure you volunteer, give back to that community. And I was just like, I can do that. And admittedly, although I believe in God, I'm faithful, I pray every day, but like I was not going to church in college. And so I just remembered that. And I was like, okay, well, so I started volunteering to who else in college with Habitat for Humanity. And then when I graduated, went to Omaha, I got on and started volunteering with United Way. And I started that partnership with North Star. And then at the relationship I had at North Star, the executive director invited me to join as a young professional on the board. So they expanded a seat for me. And I never knew what that meant. I didn't know what it meant to serve on a board. And that changed everything. Because now I'm thinking about the business without the nonprofit. I'm understanding how it works and how people come together to make that process come together. So when I got to Chicago, I just wanted to do more of the same.
Yeah. So that was your way of, I'd say, connecting with the Lord. There, through, or human actions. There, giving back. There, you may not have had it as strong as, say, a religious faith, Bible frame, going to church, but being a human being and giving back, and trimming your time, which, as we know, is the most valuable commodity.
Most valuable. It's my number one value. I try my best to be respectful of other people's time. And I knew I didn't have a lot of money, so I could give my time, and he's happy to give it.
And then at Salesforce, another sort of positive altruistic thing, building up a coaching program for underserved employees at DI. How was that? And especially in the change in landscape, over the last couple of years, a rollback of those initiatives, Sam. So what was it like building that up? And then also, what has been your thoughts and perspective of the recent changes?
Yeah, it was a very cool experience. I mean, I learned more in my professional career up to that point. It was like being washed up. I mean, that was program management, definitely project management. You're doing active coaching. I was an executive coach, so we had executive level employees there as well. You're doing one-on-one coaching. You're doing group coaching. You're designing something from scratch. You need to create the workflow. Okay, so we got our initial call. And what are the questions that need to be asked for? What is the information we need to know? And it was just mind-boggling, but most importantly, like, it was just so fulfilling. And to that point around, volunteering, I've talked to people about this all the time. Like, it's important to do something that fulfills you. You may not, people are always looking to do something that they're passionate about. Passion, it comes and goes. Yeah. But like, when you're feeling fulfilled by something, you can feel that, and for me, I felt like spending time with people, connecting with people, understanding how I can add value to their lives. Yeah, that was important to me. So when it came to the charities, that was for the soul. Right. When it came to the coaching stuff, man, seeing people not think that they can negotiate their increase, that they have to take 3%. I'm like, why do you think that?
Yeah.
Who told you that? And learning that a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, especially, a minority in the corporate world, and oftentimes feeling like, there's a blessing that I'm even here. So I was like, I want to rock the boat. And I sure, like, if I'm, so it sounds like you were empowering them. How did you empower them to have those challenging conversations? Because the compensation conversation it's tough.
It's a lot.
But, it's a lot. You made it not that hard for them. How so?
Same fundamentals from the sales stuff. Why are you so excited to be here? What do you want to create? What do you got to do? And, a lot of what I would expose them to is also thinking about life outside of this place. So often early in our careers, we get so wrapped in this job that you lose an identity of who you are. Who are you? Oh, I'm so-and-so. I work for this company. That's not who you are. That's what you do on a day-to-day basis. And so I would expose them to, what are you looking for outside of this? Why are you here? What does growth mean to you? Was the first question I would ask everyone once we started getting into that coaching level discussion. What does growth use? Yeah. And then most importantly, just like at the sales, you told me to bring out the speaker, man. You clearly want a speaker.
Yeah.
You told me you are looking to lead a team, or you don't want to lead a team. So what are the ways that you can grow as a subject matter expert? Yeah. What are the ways you can get exposed to different projects? And then I would use that as a way to then motivate them. You told me this is what you're wanting to do. Do you know what you need to do to get to that point? And if not, we'll work through that together here. Yeah. And then I would just, they were committed to some level of an engagement. So our initial call, it's like, okay, it's going to be every 2 weeks, it's going to be every week. And when they come back, I'm going to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
You said you were going to do X, Y, Z. How are we doing? Keeping them on task and, using that as a way to motivate them, but also drive them towards what they're wanting to do. And that was, that was a lot of trying to deal with. People are dealing with some tough shit in those situations. They're feeling like they've been overlooked. They feel like they don't have an opportunity. They don't see a lot of them in leadership necessarily. And so there's imposter syndrome. There's, questions of their own worth and value. So my focus in that time was like, how do I help this person see that they add value right now as they are today? Yeah. That was what was most important to me. And then taking that, what is that value that you have? It's something. We brought you here, and you were brought to this company for a particular reason. You have a particular skill set. Okay. If you want to increase that value, okay, here's how we can do that. But that doesn't mean you don't have value right now. And that's what we try to build.
I see. So how do you feel about, the recent changes? Scaling back of, DEI and these initiatives there. And what do you think, how does it make you feel? And what do you think are going to be the results of, skill depth?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think there's a couple things that come to mind for me. One is like, definitely sad that we're in this position that, the people who are supportive, regardless of the regime, just supporters who are of that party or those decisions, who just don't see and understand that, doing DEI, creating DEI initiatives is not in spite of you, it has no immediate impact on you. It creates an opportunity for other people to have more exposure, have more visibility, to, have the opportunity to have their own personal builds. So, I think that that's what's the most sad, is that, it's almost from the perspective of like selfishness. It feels like fear in a lot of cases. But there's this other element to it that I've always firmly believed is like, technically, it shouldn't be its own thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It needs to be, because it doesn't exist. But technically it shouldn't. And so what I believe pretty confidently is the best companies that will likely last the longest and will likely be the most successful, that have the best people, are more than likely to be companies that still either deliver on those initiatives or decide, we don't need to create separate initiatives. We're going to change our systems, change our processes to make sure that we're being more open, inclusive, equitable in the way we take care of our members.
I see. Post Salesforce, transitioning up to, business coaching, consulting there, especially working with me on Edinburgh Capital Partners there. Touch a little bit about, your transitioning from coaching for one company and then its employees, and now a multitude of different clients, especially myself, there. How's that been? What do you bring to the table? How do you bring it to the table?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had already been doing the real estate stuff for myself. I bought my first property during COVID. I was doing my own property management. I got laid off by Salesforce, and I was excited. I was like, hey, okay, they're full time. And admittedly, I had no idea how to manage my day, how to structure my time as an entrepreneur full time. So, I had to swallow my pride a little bit and go get a job as a property manager. So I wanted to understand how I do this. What should I be doing on a day-to-day basis? And through that opportunity, I was exposed to someone who was buying co-working spaces. They were growing. And I was like, okay, I want to talk to this guy. So I sit down with him and I explained to him, why I was interested in sitting down with him, what I wanted to learn from what he was doing. And then he quickly started talking about some of the challenges he had with hire. And then, naturally, I'm just like, oh, okay, let me start chatting. I'm like, asking questions, trying to coach him up on different things that I think he could be doing differently and doing better. And at that time, I had already hired my first employee. So I got an onboarding guide that I used. And and he hits me up. He's like, dude, that was amazing. He brought me in to help hire one of his employees. And that was the first time that I was like, okay, I could definitely because at that point, I'm trying to figure out how do I do real estate. But this opened my eyes to go, I should also be doing the HR. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who believe sincerely that employees don't care, that they're, every employee is going to be crowd. They just want to steal your money, steal your time. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. And so when I gave him that value in that moment, he was asking me how much he should pay me. Yeah. And I didn't know what to charge him. The side just was like $2,500. And he's like, oh, okay. It's like, damn. Yes. I knew in that moment, one, that I could charge more. Yeah. And two, I can build something out of this. I got my LLC opened later that week. And started building from there. I knew what I wanted to be doing, but I didn't necessarily know how to build that structure. So I got a business coach, and she helped to really structure what I have today. She exposed me to this consulting for equity model, which I had, I didn't realize. But her point was these founders are doing a lot of it themselves. Maybe they got a small team. They need someone that can help them build their systems instead of building the parachute as they're jumping out of plane.
Yeah. And what's the first thing that when you're dealing with a owner, what's that first couple of items there that you're like, okay, they need?
Absolutely. Because that's what we talked about earlier. Why are you here? Why else you do this? What are you in this for? Yeah. And is your business aligned to that? That's first and foremost. Are those things aligned? So I get in, we do what we call a system scan. We get every start from the top, looking at the leader themselves. Do they understand who they are, why they did this, what they want to get out of this experience, what their specific expertise is? Then have they structured and built the business in a way that is, clear to what they do and how they offer value to the marketplace? But we also really try to dig deep into the strategy. What is it that you do? What's the Hensay way, right? What is that unique thing? You talked about quality, and I was saying to you, that's great. Quality is fantastic, but is it a white glove experience? Is it quality in the context of the depth of knowledge and information? So I want to, no matter what industry you're in, I want to know, who are you? Yeah. Why are you here? And what are you trying to give to the world? What's the business doing? And more specifically, what is the business doing different from others? Once I have that, we can start getting to work and start building out the systems and building out the SOPs. We want to create a customer journey. So you need to know your product. You need to create your customer journey. Yeah. Once you got that, you could in a variety of different ways start, things can come together. But I always encourage people, once you've got that, start mapping that up step by step by step, specifically using our system scan as an example. So that's a 30-day intensive where I sit down with the founder, typically for about 90 minutes. We're looking at the depths of their business. And we go back and we start to pull out some observations that we see, the priorities that they need to start implementing on. And so that's what we've been working on a lot over our recent past is kind of getting those things mapped to your strategy. But it's all built around what you want to do, where you want to go with the business.
So what does the deliverable look like? Do you just provide a here you go, book, a guide there? What does that look like?
Yeah,
As clients, so what does that look like?
the final product that we deliver is the Entrepreneur's Guide, and it's across each of those pillars. We have a framework, abstract operating systems. We've got a framework through each of those pillars. There are things that most entrepreneurs should do as they're building big business. You should have a vision. You should have a goal. All of those things are done on the meta awareness component, the business say. And so I map them. I first capture that information, that tell them how they need to either deliver it for themselves, either put it here in this document or put it on your own company wiki, put it on your website, whatever the case may be. And then it's step by step by step. And the goal is not to be a report. It's really intended to be like an action part. It's intended to tell them Monday through Friday, here are the things that you should be working on a daily basis. If you don't have them now, start implementing that.
Yeah.
So,
And care. And you say start implementing them. Do you hold their hands through the implementation?
yeah, the ones. So, one specifically just for the primary service that we offer in our consulting package, it packages like, yes, we'll come in and do it for you.
Yeah.
Or you can leverage one of our interviewers. I, build a team of support underneath my entity. And so I can drop them into your business and let you leverage them, use them to build your systems to go in and implement the entrepreneurs that they've been trained on it. They've been trained on how to use it. Or you can bring us in and we can do it for you. And then even beyond that, so I want to go through that experience with someone ever before I get to that component of consulting for, I'm not going to commit myself to a long-term engagement and exchange of, equity in the business without being able to see what is it like working with the founder. Are they going to take our constructive feedback? Are they going to use the Entrepreneur's Guide? Because it is intended to be very straightforward, super easy to use. That you don't use. If you want to do it, you can go take this and do it right now. You can start today. But if you want us to walk you through it, we'll come in. I'll sit on your executive team as a fractional COO, and I will operate this system for you. Now, the important thing I always try to convey to founders when they are bringing us in is like, it's not a dump and run.
Yeah,
we're in this together. We're partners. And until you have a team that's large enough that we can delegate all that to, it's us. We're it. It's you and my team. And now it's our team because you brought them in. But, even in the context of done for you, it still requires a lot of involvement. It's your business. It's your vision.
Yeah.
It's your baby. But I'm trying to take all the crap you don't want to be dealing with and get that off your plate.
Yeah.
That's my fault.
Okay. Sure.
No worries. And I can speak to you in general just around when it comes to Edinburgh Capital, a lot of what we're doing right now is taking your podcasts, creating a strategic alignment with your product stack, right? And so there needs to be a through line. There needs to be a level of consistency. And although like the tone and the vibe and feel may be different, you still want people to go from one into the other and still feel like, hey, that's Hensay. Hey, that's the brand I've chosen to align myself with, or the person I've connected with. And in doing so, you need to then be strategic around not only the messaging, but also how you design your processes. So that's why we've been working on your customer journey and understanding that your focus product is like going to be your evaluations, right? Because one, as you saw already, that's your bread and butter. So I love to get your expertise and build a strategy around that, because that's the first thing we can then get off your plate. It's not what you love. It's what you couldn't do with your eyes closed. And so document, how does that come together? How does that document come together? And then we want to document that, put that into wiki. And now we bring in the strategy component. So that's the business component. Let's bring in the strategy. How do we Hensay this? How do we make this unique to you? And how do I also add to my mind? You know, we talked about how overwhelming it can be for a client to go through their business document, which so many pages.
And okay, if what you do is like, you know, how I take a business valuation and summarize it and make it very digestible for the client there, same way, same approach. So, you know, as we close out here, you know, want to just touch on, I know you have affirmations, you know, one, you know, grow your business there. It has been extremely valuable to me. We're also looking to acquire a business here in the future and see some other changes here. As we close out there, kind of touch a little bit about, you know, what tomorrow looks like for you, what you have on the horizon and what you're looking at.
Absolutely. So both in the HR business and in the real estate business, we're up to acquire here before the end of the year, which is a lofty goal considering I'm getting married here in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So we want to acquire a couple properties, both in Chicago and Omaha. We got offers going on. But when it comes to acquiring business, I want to grow Abstract Enterprise by inserting the vertical for staffing. You know, it takes a lot of manpower to go out and find quality talent. And instead of trying to stand that up on its own, I rather just go acquire it. And I learned about that your M&A calls that you're at up a while back, which, you know, I was like, I learned a ton and that got me really excited about the prospect of I admittedly had no clue that was a thing that you can necessarily do that. And I'm sure in the back of my mind, I knew that I guess you could go buy a business, but I thought you needed to be a private equity firm or have buku bucks. I mean, something like that happen. And obviously to have capital, but you know, it's way more approachable than people say. And as you've said multiple times, it's not that hard.
There. So no, thank you again for joining. Hey, it's always a pleasure.
It's been awesome,
Eddie. Looking forward to many more.